This is What the Floor from T&A Supply Company, Inc., a podcast for the flooring industry. I'm Holiday Van Aram.
And I'm Michael Gurria. We're going to explore the hot topics of the flooring industry with a little humor and a new set of eyes.
We're recording this episode at the end of December.
Yeah.
Christmas is upon us.
Christmas is upon us. The weather's terrible.
We talked about this earlier. There's an ice skating rink in our parking lot here at the office.
It is super icy.
I almost bit it this morning.
Yeah, so we're up against it and recording for the last time in 2022.
Yeah, so this will air in January, the end of January. We have an interesting topic for today. We thought it might be interesting to explain the life cycle of a flooring product, at least in the eyes of T&A Supply.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good for our customers to understand how we pick things, why we pick things, and then how we bring them to market. I mean, it's a huge process and something that, you know, I used to work for a manufacturer, and for me to understand what it took for a distributor to get a product to market is way more than I expected. And so I think it's great to discuss. I think everybody will enjoy this episode.
Yeah, we traditionally have received a lot of complaints from customers when we discontinue something. Why did you do this? It's, I just got this. I've got projects. Why are you getting rid of something? And I don't think our customers usually understand how long we've been working with the product and all of the different things that can cause it to be discontinued and why we have to do that for products and why certain things can't last forever. From the beginning, the middle, and the end, there's a lot of unknowns to folks who are outside of our company here as to why we do things and how we do them. So this should be an enlightening episode, I think, for folks.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we jump right in and get to it.
In front of us, we have a list of notes, and one of them is actually written out all of the different stages. There's a lot of stages involved in launching a product. Yep. And first and foremost is R&D.
Yep.
We have a lot of projects in R&D right now.
Yeah, research and development is so huge. We are always looking for the next thing for our customers. We don't want to be just another Me Too all the time. So sometimes we have to be, but the goal is to bring products to market that wow you, that make you feel like, hey, there's new technology coming. What is it? What's going to be the next popular thing? And so we can't just get a recommendation from a vendor and then take that product. We really like to vet it. So there's part of R&D is feeling that product, getting samples of that product, is putting it together, is playing with it for a little while to really understand what it is. Yeah,
we have a lot of vendors that come through T&A asking for us to take on products. Yep. Some that we work with all the time, some that we've never worked with. We have a lot of people that just show up randomly that you have no idea who they are and what they're bringing to you. And a lot of samples shipped to us of things. All that stuff goes in R&D. Yep. We're going to think about it. We're going to ask people about it. We're going to get those samples and take them out to customers and get their feedback. We spend a lot of time doing that.
Yeah, feedback from customers is huge, right? Because we want to make sure, and we can't do it to everybody, unfortunately, but we like to at least get some feedback, from a good handful of customers. Hey, is this viable? If we're at this price point, is this technology of interest to you? Yeah. So there's so many facets that play into that R&D with that particular product. But feedback from customers is huge because obviously we want it, to engage them, to make sure they feel like it's something viable for the market.
Yeah, and we don't know everything. No, we don't. We're making these decisions, but we don't make them just because we liked something. Right. If it's just something that one of us happen to really like, it's probably not going to work out super well. We've got to have everybody really excited about a product and customers excited about it. Yep. This is something that they've been asking for, and this is a solution to a problem that they have.
Yeah, from the sales side too, we got to wrap our minds around what's the sales story and then put a marketing plan together. How do we make sure this product will be successful? We may like it and maybe our customers like it, but how will we march that all the way down to the consumer? So we have to think about it start to finish, really.
And sometimes products never leave R&D. It is something that stays on the list for a really long time. We think about it a lot. We get it almost to the point where we've decided to launch it, or we've told people we're going to move it into that next phase, and then we go back and decide, nope, it's going back into R&D. Yep. We're not ready for this one. Exactly. It's not going to work out. So some things never leave that phase. Yeah. And after a while, I try to, in my own personal spreadsheet, trying to mark them as things that we've abandoned this. We're done. Stop even considering this as R&D anymore. This has been abandoned and moved on. So from R&D, if they happen to be those special unicorns that move to the launch phase, that's the next one, is launching the product. That can take a really long time.
Yeah, it can. I mean, there's just, again, we're going to keep saying this through and through, but there's so many things that then have to go into it. But once we decide we're moving forward, then like I said, it goes into the launch process. That incorporates several different factors and groups that have to get involved. Sales and marketing is probably where that kind of starts to breathe life, right?
Yep. So our marketing team starts to jump on it. We start to create our product briefs for the program, trying to gather all of the information about what the product is, how we're going to sell it, how we're going to market it, how many SKUs is it going to be, what is the features and the benefits, all of that information for each of our different market segments, because we don't necessarily market the same product to each segment the same way. So when we go out to a contract customer, it's very different selling experience than if we go out to retail. So it's got a whole different story, and some of those things overlap, and it's beneficial to both groups, but there's very specific things that we're marketing the product differently. It has a different look and feel and different story to it, depending on who we're talking to.
Yeah, and you wouldn't imagine the amount of information we have to collect and build. I mean, from building SKUs, well, it's not just the SKU, then it's all of the, what we call the AD notes, where it's, the weight of the carton, the weight of the product, how many pieces are in. That's all super viable information. It doesn't seem super important when you're just looking at a product for maybe a customer to pick, but ultimately we have to have all that. You wouldn't believe the amount of times we get asked for such specific questions about a particular product once it's in the marketplace.
How much is on a pallet? What are the size of the pallets? What are they made out of? How are they shipping it to us?
Pattern repeats. I mean, we could go on and on about the specifics of a product, but to collect all that information can take a lot of time.
Yeah. And then we start building out all of our merchandising materials. We try to get all of that stuff sent to the factories to have those done, and the printers that are doing them way, way before we ever get the samples and the product.
During that launch phase in the sales support marketing side of things, we have our product launch tracker. And in that, we are tracking dates and, individual tasks that all these people have to do and coordinating deadlines on all those. That, for an individual launch in, say, the TAS flooring brand is roughly 150 tasks that have to happen, or things that we're, trying to get from vendors or dates that we're tracking. So all those line items that are included in a launch, it adds up to about 150 things that have to happen.
Times 2 products, 3 products at once.
Exactly.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So when we are launching, I don't know how many things in February and March, I think 7 or 8 product lines. It's a lot that we're trying to make happen all at the same time. So
once we place our purchase order for something, we've decided we're moving forward and we're placing our purchase order, we have a certain amount of weeks to get all of this information gathered, all of the merchandising materials created, and then start working on all of the marketing pieces. And sometimes that turnaround time is really fast. And then sometimes we've got a lot more room to breathe, but it's crunch time, really.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of places where that information can go wrong. If we have even just packaging information that's wrong on something, well, that might have been put on numerous different things that have been printed in the quantities of thousands that now have to be fixed or replaced or covered up later.
Well, and the other facet that you can think about is if it's a new product for a vendor, versus a existing product for a vendor.
Yeah.
If it's an existing product, usually we can go pretty quick. The vendor usually has all that information.
Yep.
Maybe they've launched it with another distributor somewhere in the country. If it's a new product, sometimes it takes forever to get all the detailed information. Maybe they don't have a lot of the testing done.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of things that play into that. So that can take longer.
And again, sometimes it never leaves the launch phase either. Right. If they can't provide all of that information and we're not getting the things that we need, or we find that after we've gone through this process, it's really not what we thought it was going to be, or the samples show up and they're trash, or the product actually gets delivered and it does not meet our quality standards, we might abort this mission then and there, and it might not actually ever launch to the world. Yeah,
and there's also a lot of negotiation that goes on with installation instructions or warranty. We may want to go, they may say, hey, you can go 30 by 30. Well, a lot of our customers want 50 by 50 or wider without transitions. And so we're negotiating, hey, is this product stable enough to do that? So a lot of behind the scenes stuff that is not discussed out in the open, but certainly is something we're working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So from R&D and launch, we've got all of our sales management, our marketing team, our sales support team, our imports team, our warehouse team. All of these folks are involved in that process. Yeah. There's a lot of people involved in making sure that product actually gets to the introduction phase, phase where we are launching it to the field, sending the samples out, and have our sales reps actually introducing it to customers. That's the next phase.
Growth. Yeah. How do we get the market penetration? How do we build that product out to make sure that it's successful in the field?
I don't think that there is a set amount of time that we can put on a product where we can decide that we've reached the maximum growth of a product, or it should have certain expectations by certain dates. Every product is a little different, and we might have stumbled a little out of the gate when we launched it. Things could change after we've launched it. I mean, there's a handful of times where we've decided that the marketing message we chose is not really what's actually important to customers. Once we've shown it to customers, we've decided that that's not as important as they said it was going to be, and we need to relaunch this in a different way and just kind of start over.
Yeah.
We have some benchmarks that we utilize, 60 days, 120 days, where we start running some reports and see what's going on. But it's hard to tell product compared to other products what's successful in those certain ranges. We have certain ideas of how well things should do, but I don't know that we have really great benchmarks yet for that.
No, and it always, we have to manage our expectations. It always takes a little bit longer than we expect. We want things to sell the minute we put the samples in the field. What I will say is we also understand from maybe we're talking about our retail customers here. Hey, they have to get comfortable with the product. They have to be PK'd on the product, and then they have to be comfortable selling it to Mr. and Mrs. homeowner coming in to choose that product. And so it can take time for them. And then maybe they get that first order. Well, it takes a little time, and they want to make sure it goes well, and then they're willing to sell it again.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how you could go down so many rabbit holes on where we have some of those slowdowns or issues, but it's a big part of the launch.
Yeah. So a product for a normal TAS flooring product will stay in that growth phase for probably several years. I mean, it's not a right away hit usually. A lot of things will take time to ramp up and get to a place where we feel like they're really successful.
Yeah.
By the time they reach what we consider maturity, we have to have documented for at least 6 months or longer that this product's sales have kind of hit that peak and it's kind of plateaued out, and this is kind of where it rides at. I don't know that there's really a good number of years that you can say by X date we'll see that happen, because every product is a little different, and the market changes will affect whether or not that product's going to stick around for 5 years, 10 years, 1 year, 2.
Right. Yeah, I feel like after 6 months, we typically know the success rate of the product, or that we have to do something drastic to re-engage our customer base with it. If we think about our contract A&D team, when they are showing products to the market, that those projects are, sometimes 3, 6, 8, 10, 12 months or longer down the road. So if you're looking at it from their standpoint, it is a good probably year into it. Is it successful at that, avenue?
Yeah.
If you're talking, residential retail, 6 months is usually, we know for the most part, is this a product we really want to put more energy and time into?
At this point, the retail side of our business and the contract side of our business start to separate.
Yeah.
And we will do different things based on those different markets for products. So this is where we start to decide if it's really not working in the retail side, we may change it to a non-stock product and we'll really not push it and have our customers remove the samples. This just isn't really working on the retail side, and we're not going to support it as much as a TAS flooring product. But we might not have that same message with our contract side, because we can still access the product. It doesn't have to be in stock. The quantities of their orders are much larger than what we would normally have in stock. So we do things a little differently depending on how they want to source the product. We kind of decide whether we're going to be continuing with the product, if it's fine and doesn't need to be touched, if we need to refresh it and do something new and different, bring in new colors, change some kind of specification on it, or if it's declining and it's just not going to be a long-term product for us. Lots of decisions to make once you feel like you've reached a point where you have enough data to understand what's happening in the marketplace.
Yeah. And it's hard, and I apologize. We're speaking kind of vague. It is, like I said, every product is different. Every product has a different timeline. and success line. We've had products that were slow out of the gate and we just struggled with. And then all of a sudden we just see this, maybe it gets spec'd into a project. Maybe, a couple customers are starting to have success with it. And all of a sudden it just starts to take off. Word of mouth is very big, especially amongst a company. If one residential rep is selling it well, they usually spread the word. And, hey, here's how I'm doing it. So it's fun to watch different products have different paces. And we get to be a part of that, but it's all in its own time.
Jeff Nealon, our product manager, imports director, jack of all trades, has this great graph that he draws every once in a while. And I'm going to try and illustrate that in words, but maybe we can post a little picture of it. But okay, so imagine a quadrant where your horizontal axis, your x-axis is time. So the farther right you go, the longer the product has been launched.
Yep.
And then the vertical is sales. So in your lower left quadrant, we have early adopters. So it's early to launch and the sales aren't very high yet. So the people who are using it are early adopters for that launch. The top left quadrant, so not very much time has passed, but sales are high. That's going to be our stellar star collections. Those right out the gate are producing sales quickly.
We love
best
that.
Case scenario products, right? And then the farther over you go to the right, so you have your top right quadrant, that's time has passed, the product's reaching maturity, but the sales are still high. So those are going to be our workhorses. Those are the ones like Bourbon Street and Tandem. They live forever. Customers trust that brand name and they just are consistently generating sales. And then you have your bottom right quadrant, which Jeff calls the dying dog. So those are on the way to discontinuation or non-stock, where they've lived their life and are not producing sales at the volume that they used to. And sometimes maybe, a product, it dies an early death and it goes from early adopter to dying dog and never reaches.
It never has that arc where it naturally is coming up and coming back down. It just takes a shot right to the far right real fast.
So, but that's kind of a fun way, I think, to visually understand how we make some of those decisions and how you can visualize the launch or life cycle process.
I think a couple things that I do want to say is the timelines, like you're saying, there is no specific timeline. When we decide to discontinue a product within a few months of it launching into the field, we're sorry that we have to do that. And we're not trying to disrupt people's business. And, maybe you just got excited about this product and we're already taking it away from you. But there's definitely a reason that we're doing that. Let's talk about what can kill a product. Yeah. What are those things that happen along the way that make us decide that we are no longer going to support this product?
There's a lot of things. I think, one of the things I think about right off the top is the samples aren't representative of the product or don't show it well enough in that display, whatever the facet is.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's certain things that we can do to fix that, and some things that it just doesn't show well and it doesn't express it correctly, and it's just, there's nothing really you can do to change that, or you're just not willing to invest in a different type of sampling vehicle because it's not worth it.
Right.
We've definitely over the years had problems with that.
Yeah. I think the second thing is instant inventory issues with the vendor. We get things out, it starts to sell like gangbusters, and then we can't get the product. And, people move off things very quickly. As hard as we work to get them in there and get people excited about it, if they can't get it, kills it.
And there are so many reasons for that happening. It could be something internal that we've done, something that was set up wrong in our system to not gauge the quantities that we were going to need, port issues, shipping problems, shipping delays, the vendor having problems being able to source raw materials to be able to actually manufacture something. It's not always our fault or the vendor's fault. There's so many different things that could be happening. Or they just can't produce the product consistently.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had that before where we get the samples, they look great. We even get master cartons of the material and it looks fine. It clicks together good and it seems like it's going to work. And then our first batch is terrible.
Yeah.
Our first actual containers of the material is not what they said it was going to be. And sometimes we don't notice that completely. You know, we'll pull some pieces out and do some quality control testing here. And if it looks good and smells right and seems like it's the right thing, you know, we move it along. We're not going to hold it up, but we don't notice the problems until customers start buying it in larger quantities and start doing more installs, and we realize there's something wrong with it. And then we have to decide whether or not we can trust that vendor. Right? How long have we worked with them? Do we know that they have a good track record? Is it just a problem with this batch? Are they explaining it and, you know, and want to fix the problem, or are they trying to tell you there's nothing wrong with it? There's a lot of questions that can come up that will decide whether or not you actually continue working with them and give it another shot, or if this is dead now.
Yeah, and that's where the vendor really shows their colors. You know, what do they do to step up? How do they help us rectify the issue? How do they help us make it right for our customers and potentially for the homeowner if it's gone that far?
Yeah.
You know, but we have to be careful. And I just want to let people know, we vet our relationships with our vendors a lot. We don't take it lightly, the relationship with the vendor and who they are. We just don't order from anybody. And so it's important for our customers to understand that. There's a lot of work that goes into just vetting and making sure they're a good quality partner.
Yeah, and that's not just the one time. That's not just when we bring on a product. We're consistently and constantly doing that. I came into our main conference room a couple of weeks ago, right after there was a meeting in there, and our imports manager had his handwritten graph on the board about consistency and quantity of claims by some generic vendors, and then the one that he was meeting with. And he was trying to explain to them, we've been a long-time partner with you, but look at the number of claims that I have with other vendors of these types of products compared to how many I have of yours.
Yeah.
You need to fix this, or we're not going to be able to do business with you any longer. So we're always having those conversations with vendors, and we need to work with partners who are going to support us and support our customers and support that product all the way through to possible problems down the road. And there is only so much time that we will let that vendor have before we're fed up with it.
Yeah.
And we have plenty of other sources, and we don't put up with quality issues.
I think one of the last things I was thinking of what kills a product is sometimes the market just doesn't accept it. Maybe we're too early with that technology, or we think it's great. We've got the feedback that says it's great, and the consumers don't buy it. It just doesn't go. And it's always disappointing, because there's times, by the time we've got it out to the field, we've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and we're excited about it.
Yeah.
And to have the market not accept it is always a huge bummer.
Or have the market change just right before, you know, it seems like everything's going to work out perfectly. And then somebody else comes out with something. There's a shift, there's a pricing change, there's something that happens, and you're just out of luck. It's just not going to work.
One of the examples I think about is Raintree. We've been very successful with Raintree, our waterproof hardwood. And, you know, waterproof hardwood had been around for 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer, before Raintree came out. But the iterations of it were that the finish was a little milky. It was a rotary peeled veneer, not a sliced veneer, and it was expensive. And so there was all these factors that just the market didn't accept it. And so when we came out with Raintree, we really had to do a good job. People love the look, but we had to do an even better job of selling that product into the market. And it caught on, but the market had tried several times ahead of that. So we were just fortunate to hit it when we did, and to have Raintree be a success. But sometimes you're just early.
Yeah, sometimes you are. And sometimes you have a product that you're a little too early on, but once others start to see your success, they come out with their own, and it almost helps, because it almost proves your point that this product is really worth folks' time, and people are going to want this. And other companies now have seen that too and want to come in and sell something similar. So sometimes that helps too.
You're right.
There are only so many types of products. We are limited in the amount of things that we can come up with to put on our floor. So with SPC, there's only so many things you can do to make an SPC different. And when somebody finds that little tweak, everybody else is going to want to make that little tweak too. Add that new coating, or that new shift in technology, or that different type of construction process. Because what else are they going to do? Right. They have to keep reinventing themselves. So, and timing can be everything.
Yeah, and that's where we try to differentiate ourselves. We understand there's a lot of the same Me Too products in the market, but does anybody, ship as well as T&A? Does anybody inventory as deep as T&A? Does anybody have as good of a sales team as T&A? That's where we try to separate ourselves. And I'm sure you could say, there's gonna be people out there, oh, there's yes to some of those answers. I hope we're at the top of the list for a lot of you listeners, but we really try to make sure that we bring you new products that are going to interest you and interest the homeowners at the end of the day, but also, we're going to support you as well or better than anybody.
We didn't really talk too much about refreshes, the types of things that we do when we refresh a product. If we've decided to refresh a product, it is most likely because we see some kind of benefit to it. We like the name. We have some good success with it. It's been around for a while. We feel like there's something that we can do to tweak it that will make it even do a little bit better. We can kind of milk a little bit more out of it before it really needs to be pushed off to the wayside. So one of the easiest things is updating colors, switching out some colors.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the market changes, right? I mean, you look at, 5 years ago, grays, we could have full 8 SKU lines of grays and they all sold and now gray has moved out. We still certainly include grays in each of our collections, but they're not what they used to be. So we have very successful lines that we have great price points on, customers are comfortable with. We don't want to get rid of those lines. We just need to update them, refresh them with color so that customers continue to move to the racks, that we have in the stores. And so refreshing is a great way to keep the legacy of a line moving on with just some updated colors.
Or an updated specification. We've got our tandem collection's a great example. So we added tandem wide, just a wider plank, some different colors, a little different features. We've got tandem tile, bringing a line of tile options. We really think that there's value in the tandem name. We have, a good amount of customers buying that product consistently, and it's got some brand recognition. So just adding a new product under that same name with some different features and benefits or different sizing and color options is another way to refresh a collection. And you hope too, when you add in the tandem tile, that it reminds people that you have tandem, and they'll go look at that too, because you can put them in the same display, you can refresh and everything, rearrange your colors, and it brings some name recognition back to the original collection.
We'll always refresh. That's a big part of our business. And so that's just making sure that we have the most up-to-date films or color, palette moving forward. And so that's something that we're always working on right alongside with new product launches is refreshes of existing collections in the field. Those kind of go hand in hand, and you see those, throughout the year for sure.
Yeah. One thing I do want to mention is a product that actually makes it through all of the different phases is a very fortunate product. Most do not make it through the entire life cycle from R&D all the way to an easy decline into discontinuation. A lot of products get killed all sorts of different places in that phase. So a product for us that can make it all the way through. Great example recently, I think, would be our Bourbon Street laminate collection. Yeah. We had that collection for such a long time. We went through several different refreshes of it. And it finally just, it just has declined and discontinued itself on its own naturally in the wild.
The market shifted. COVID hit, the freight went up so drastically from overseas. And so that product just got hammered. Now, it was already just a workhorse for so long for us. And so probably on what we would consider a decline, like you had mentioned, we'd done multiple refreshes with it. But the market conditions caused that to get to a point where it didn't make sense to continue that product long term. And so we moved away from it, and we found other products certainly to replace that at that pricing level. So.
And it's so funny too, because now, we've moved on, we replace it with other things, and now we're looking at bringing in new products that are very similar to what it was. So it's a circle of life. And sometimes, we're not going to call it Bourbon Street, but the market changes, but the market always tends to come back and need those things after a certain amount of time.
It does. And if you look at the market, from 2000, let's call it 13 to really 2019, it was a very steady market and conditions were very stable. Well, the last 2 years, what we've seen when freight went up to, let's call it $25,000 a container from overseas, and is now back down already to close to where we were buying before, pre-pandemic, freight rates. that changes. And so we're adjusting more in the last 2 or 3 years than we've had to adjust in the last 10.
Yeah.
And so we understand from our customer base, that's not easy, but we want to make sure we keep you as competitive as possible, that you have the best products from T&A Supply so that you can, get every sale that walks into your store.
Yeah, I think that is one thing that is different about the way T&A Supply goes to market than other large manufacturers. We're a little bit more nimble.
Yeah.
We choose to keep ourselves that way. We could be very set like others are in only launching new products and services, only discontinuing, a couple things at certain times throughout the year, holding GPL lists where we're guaranteeing that these things will not go away within a certain amount of time. We tend to not do that. There are specific markets, builder being one of them, where we do guarantees very specific things, but it's project specific, it's developer specific. We have those arrangements with you, not to the masses,
right,
because we need to be able to offer what we need at that particular time. Our motto has always been what you need when you need it, at the price point that you need it at. That's what we try to do. And when we are locked into something where it can only change once a year, only be introducing new colors and surfaces, that's not beneficial to you as our customer.
Right. And that's the thing, I'd like to just add to that is we're never trying to cause disruption in your business. I mean, we really want to help you build your business. And so we get it. Sometimes, bringing on new SKUs in July or August or, is disrupting because we added something in early February. But we want to make sure we found a way to be even more competitive. And so we want to make sure you have the ability to access those products to make yourself more competitive.
Yeah, we know that it's disruptive when we launch it without a pad and then add a pad 2 months later and make you change your SKUs and change your samples. But it's because we really believe that it is better this way and it's going to be better for you and your consumer this way.
Yep.
We're not here doing it just for, just to have fun and mess with people. It is disruptive for us too. Yeah. There is a lot that's involved in us changing something about a product, adding a pad. And it seems like a really simple thing to do. Oh, just buy it with a pad now. Well, we can't inventory. We can't mix the inventories. We have to keep them separate. New SKUs, update samples. All the messaging has to be changed. The website has to be changed. We have to relaunch this out into the market and get you to understand it, send out new price lists. There's a lot involved. It's not something we just do just because we don't have anything to do.
Right. Well, that's why Holiday and I and the WTF team felt like it was important to do this podcast is to really walk you through all the decisions that have to be made. These aren't made lightly when we, do the pad or no pad to pad or change a locking system.
Yeah.
It's because we've really vetted this and we feel it's best for us and you guys long term. I mean, we don't make these decisions without thinking about how they impact you, the customer.
The one thing that I am really excited about in sharing this process is also sharing that we have lots of new products coming out at the beginning of the year.
We do.
February and March are going to be slammed with lots of samples hitting your stores. I'm really excited about some of the things we have coming in laminate and luxury vinyl. We've got some really interesting products with features that we've never seen before, better visuals that are coming out. We have some things that just have new features and benefits, things that we got rid of previously that we don't really have that in our line anymore because we couldn't find a vendor with the right pricing. We found those things again. So there's a lot of new things coming and it's going to be very exciting February and March for us.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, some of the price points even, that we're going to be able to get to are going to really make a big impact, with our customer base. And so look forward to those. And we certainly want to end this by saying, hey, thank you for trusting us. Thank you for trusting our product lifecycle process. We know sometimes it doesn't feel like it makes sense. Sometimes there's internal battles here where we're not all on the same page, but ultimately we're going to continue to reiterate, we want to do the best we can for you and bring you the best products we can for the market so that you can be as competitive as possible and be as successful as possible.
Yeah. So when we come out and we ask you your opinions, when we're, doing PKs and having meetings with you and asking you, what do you see coming? What is new and interesting? What are others showing you that we don't have? We really do want those answers because it really affects the decisions that we make. And if we're not getting that feedback from you, there's a want that you have from us that you're not sharing, we can never get you that if we don't know what it is. So never feel like you can't share with us, hey, you know, I'd really love it if T&A had X blank product because I could really sell that. Well, tell us, let us know what that is, and we can figure out whether or not we can get that for you.
Yeah, certainly if we hear it enough times, I mean, it makes a major impact on some of those decisions.
Yeah. That's the circle of life, as they say.
Holiday's holding up Simba right now.
Yes, I am. I love that movie, man. That's one of my favorites. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah, if you need a good-hearted movie, go watch Lion King. It's been a while, probably.
Yeah, except for, the middle part where
you have to
to his death.
Well,
it's a little traumatizing.
It is a little traumatizing. I still cry when I see it. I probably cry more now than I did when I was a kid, right?
Yeah,
now that I'm a parent.
Sure.
Oh, heartbreaking moment there. Yeah, that's an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah.
Fire in the hole!
All right, Michael. We're bringing it back. Have we only done Fire in the Hole once?
I think so.
Far?
This is number 2. Fire in the hole.
This Fire in the Hole. I mean, we're talking about product launches and life cycles of products. We've got some coming in the future, but we have some that are happening very, very soon. By the time this show airs, you will be seeing this in the field. So we wanted to make sure we take the opportunity to share with you 2 companion products, Corsage and Cruiser.
Yes, we're very excited about 2 new glue down LVs that we have coming to the market in probably the 2nd, 3rd week of January. These will be out in the field.
Yes, it's very exciting. So there are really 1, maybe 2 differences between these 2. One of them being colors.
Yeah.
They're not the same colors.
Right.
And they're not the same millimeter thickness. So Corsage is a 2 millimeter, right?
Corsage is a 2 millimeter thick product with a 12 millimeter wear layer. So we call it a 212. I've been out talking about this a little bit recently and really to my bad, I said, hey, we got this new cool 212. And the gal was like confused. And I said, I'm sorry, let me roll it back for you. So overall 2 millimeter thickness with a 12 millimeter wear layer. The thing cool about Corsage and Cruiser is we've got a ceramic bead finish. So you've got the 12 mil, but with ceramic bead, which really helps your overall performance.
Okay. Yes. And it's especially with these thin products, you need these little things to make them last longer. Cruiser is a 2.5 millimeter, 12 mil wear layer, same UV ceramic bead finish. So for both of these products, you've got a thin product, which the main point of that whole idea behind a thin product is a price point. We're trying to reach a certain price point on a glue down product. And these products are very project oriented. They're not what a retail customer is usually putting in a homeowner's house in their living room or whatever. Not that you can't.
You certainly can.
If you fall in love with that color, baby, you do you.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
We have heard of people putting them in a laundry room in replace of, sheet vinyl or things like that. But typically, we won't limit you to this, but typically they're not used in a residential setting throughout the home.
Yeah. So it's a price point, but these 2 products have some bells and whistles, I'll say, that make them stand out from all of the other 2.5 millimeter glue down products. And one of them, like you mentioned, is the ceramic bead. Just having that in the wear layer just adds that extra protection against scratches.
Extra strength. There's been ceramic, bead finishes in hardwood for years. I'm sure you've heard about that. So now we have it in this LV, which will just give you that, like Holiday said, that extra, strength for scratching and imperfections that you would get from, wear.
And then the next thing that is different is the rolled edge. So Michael, tell me, what have you been telling customers about this new rolled edge?
Yeah, so typically in a glue down product like this you'll either have a square edge or a micro beveled edge. And like we had mentioned, these go into large projects or larger rooms. Sometimes they're being glued down. And so when you have that square edge, it has to be very, very flat. And they're not always very, very flat, your subfloor. Same with micro beveled edge. That does help hide. This rolled edge helps hide imperfections with flatness even better. And so we feel like this is a really nice kind of upgrade to a micro beveled edge in a glue down product.
So the next bell would be the sizing of the product.
Yeah.
It's not short.
No. So we've got up to 60-inch lengths. So these are 7-inch wide products and up to 60-inch lengths. So traditionally, you would see maybe a 6 by 48-inch. Certainly, we've seen some wider, so some 7-inch glue downs. But the length is really kind of the wow on both of these particular products is you've got a full 60-inch plank length.
So the last thing that I want to mention about these two products, because still, there are other products that are 2.5. They will be 7 inches wide or whatever they are long. Maybe you don't really care about the edging. It's not a big deal to you. Ceramic bead, maybe they also have some kind of extra scratch coating. The one thing, though, that is different about these products, there's a specific reason that we chose to work with this factory and buy these products. For us, product integrity is a really important factor, and it is a way that you can stand out from the crowd. So these particular products have what the factory calls it. They're an extreme LV. So they are 3 layers of luxury vinyl that instead of being pressed together, they're being welded together so that it adds additional stability.
Yeah, additional dimensional stability is huge. I mean, that's one of the biggest factors in, with claims or things like that is movement. And you go, well, does LV move? It does. Nearly all flooring will move with, site conditional issues. So this product just has that much more dimensional stability with this, higher end performance core.
Yeah. So you've got a better core, better stability. You've got a fancy rolled edge, which I think looks fantastic. Yeah. I'm really excited to see some of our finished project photos where you can really see that make a big difference in the room. Personally, I'm not a fan of square edge luxury vinyl. I think it's really hard to see the difference in the planks, and it just looks like one big sheet. Yep. So I'm excited to see it in a larger space and get some nice photos of some larger projects. And then the size. In this thickness level, you don't really see things outside of the 48 or 36 inch long products. So customers like longer and wider planks, and we're able to get something in a price point that you're going to be pretty wowed at.
Yeah. And then the last thing is the colorations. One of the most important things is coloration. And we've got 2 great collections with color. They've done a really good job selecting the color in these. I've taken them out. I've shown them and gotten great feedback. People were picking colors right off the back. We used some colors from other lines that we have that have been extremely successful. So we're excited to see, we know those colors hit well in our marketplace. So we think these will do very, very well. Great pricing, stocked extremely deep, the T&A way. So we're excited to get these products going to you in January.
Yeah, they are definitely going to create a fire in the hole.
Fire in the hole!
For sure.
They are, which is always the goal.
Yes. I think they're going to be stellar stars, Tony, right out of the gate. We already have early adopters.
Yes, we do.
We have folks that have seen this, not even actual samples of it. They've just seen photos of
renderings.
it. Yes, renderings and product information. And they're like, that's the one. Give me that. I'm speccing this in my project. This is, and a lot of that has to do with the price point.
Yep.
You've got a spec that they need at the price that they need, whatever it looks like. Yeah. You got a dark one? Sure, that's perfect. There's a gray in there. We're good to go.
Yeah, so please, if you haven't seen Corsage or Cruiser, reach out to your T&A rep. We will make sure to have strap sets. That's how it will mainly be driven to the marketplace.
Yep.
So request strap sets. We will have plenty of them for you, and look forward to engaging with you on these 2 products.
Yeah, go to the website, check out the room visualizer, get all your specs information off of the website, tasflooring.com or tascontract.com, depending on what customer segment you fall into. So very exciting. Fire in the hole, Corsage and Cruiser. We are hitting 2023 with a bang.
Yes, so please join us.
Get on the boat.
That's right.
What the Floor is a T&A Supply Company original production. You can find out more about us at tasupply.com or tasflooring.com.
This show is produced by Jose Morales with help from Tony Collier and Jessica Reiser, hosted by Holiday Van Aram and Michael Guria.
Tell us what you think of the show. We love to hear what you think of the show. Track us down. Send us an email, WTFpodcast@tasupply.com. Hashtag What the Floor podcast on social media. If you have our phone numbers, just text us, hey, Mostly like tell us that we did a good job and everything was great. Sounded so good this time. I mean, if you have other things to say, you can do that too. But
Take criticism.
yes, we do. Mostly that's what we end up taking. What the Floor 2023?
That's right. Let's do it.